All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play In School. Today, this is going to be a fun one. Took the big bird, flew across the ocean, heading to Hawaii to meet with Reid Nomura, the GM, head man of the Hawaii Tigers. I say head man, but we're going to learn in a second. It's a family affair. And I didn't actually go to Hawaii. And Reid's not actually in Hawaii because it's 9 a.m. on the East Coast. Reid happens to be in Ohio, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about also. But before we get into all that stuff, Reid, welcome to the call, man. How you doing?
Thank you. Doing well. Glad to be a part of the podcast, and glad to have the opportunity to chat and share about Hawaii Tigers. It's our travel ball team that we started up as a family. About 2 years ago is when we kind of started things up, and last summer we took our first group of boys to the mainland to play ball out here in Ohio. Played about 14 games, so we decided to kind of loop half of that group and bring up a second group this summer. So that's why we're up here in Ohio. We're about, we're about 16 to 17 games in. We'll be here till July 5th. Trying to get in about 20-plus games is the plan.
All right, so before we go too deep into that stuff, I want to make sure, I always do a really bad job of this, but I want to make sure I point people to where they can find you. And so over on Twitter, at Hawaii Tigers, Tigers with an S at the end, at Hawaii Tigers. From there, you're going to be able to find the website, which is Hawaii Tigers with an S at the end, .org. And the first thing I want to encourage people to do is click through and find the page with the coaching staff on it. And what they'll find here is actually some like professional photos, like really nice headshots. You guys obviously brought in somebody who knows how to work a camera. But I see three guys across the board here. It's Reid Nomura, Ron Nomura, Rick Nomura, and they all look. These guys are like basically triplets. Can you talk about who these other two Nomura fellas are, and give us sort of like that background of the Hawaii Tigers?
For sure. So we can start off with my dad. He's kind of in the role of head coach for our team. He's that photo in the middle there.
Yeah.
But yeah, dad basically, he played at the University of Hawaii and coached there for many years. So he was basically there from the late 70s into the early 90s at the University of Hawaii. And, the reason why we're in Ohio is because of him. Ohio was one of his recruiting hotbeds when he served as a coach at the University of Hawaii. And he discovered a lot of great talent up here. He met Mark Hopkins, who was a part of Midland. They met at a baseball convention, and that's kind of how that whole connection started. And Mark was like, "Ron, you guys got to come out to Ohio and check out the players out here." So he went out there and checked it out, and yeah, it was loaded with talent. And fast forward a couple decades, we're bringing a group up of Hawaii boys to play against this talent. But yeah, so my dad, he's also part of the Department of Education. He's retired now. Served as a vice principal and a school renewal specialist and all of that. So, he kind of is, was in education. It's kind of one of the reasons why I went into education myself. I also serve as a teacher and have some experience as a vice principal as well. That's a little bit about my father. My brother Rick, he's 1 year younger than me. We went to high school together, played ball together there. Then he went off to Alvin Community College. So he went down to Texas to play ball in Alvin and had a great experience down there and landed a great opportunity. That's how he kind of got seen by University of Arkansas. I believe the story was, Arkansas was in town watching this other player, and, my brother hit a triple off the wall. Yeah, and kind of put him on the map right there. They really liked his energy and the way he played, and yeah, he ended up getting an opportunity to play at University of Arkansas for his last 2 years there, and they went to Omaha. I believe that was in 2015. They went to Omaha, so he got to play with Andrew Benintendi and a few of the other guys there. But yeah, it was a great experience, and yeah, he brought a lot of knowledge home when he returned home from the University of Arkansas. He had opportunity to sign with the Dodgers, but he decided to go back to Arkansas and do his senior year there. And he really loved it. Shout out to the Arkansas fans out there. Woo Pig Sooie. They really took care of him out there, and he just really loved that culture so much that when he decided to weigh the pros and cons of either signing pro after his junior year or going back to Arkansas, he's like, I got to go back to Arkansas. I got to see that through. I got to go one more year.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, we talked about your dad for a second. Well, first of all, your brother had that Omaha experience, but but I'm sitting here looking at this staff page, and your dad had the Omaha experience as well.
Absolutely.
What in the world? 2 out of 3. That ain't bad.
That ain't bad at all. Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I mean, back in the 70s, the late 70s, when my dad was playing, that's when the University of Hawaii baseball program just really came onto the scene. I believe when he was a sophomore, he helped lead them to their first. It was the college's first ever AP #1 ranking in school history. They went I think at one point in time they were 60-4, and this wasn't against nonchalant teams. They were playing North Carolina, Oklahoma, USC, Arizona. So the big schools were coming in. Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and yeah, they did really well. And they would always come up short. They wouldn't. Back then they didn't have a super regional,
right?
So it was just regionals, and then you go straight to Omaha. So in his playing days, they always fell short. They always fell short to either USC or Arizona. But when he served as a grad assistant in 1980, which was the year after he graduated, so in 1980, the Bulls made it to Omaha. They made that run and they made it to Omaha. So he was up there as a grad assistant, with the team.
That's incredible. And beyond the Omaha visits of your brother and dad, I think it's such a cool thing that the three of you guys get to hang around on the baseball field together and run this thing. That's pretty cool. That's
100%. It's been a dream come true. It's been a lot of fun just doing it together with our dad, and he's only getting older. So he said, "Hey, we're gonna stay on this wave and stuff like that." I've had opportunity to kind of advance my career as an administrator in the Department of Education, but I'd have to take all these classes, and so I told them I'm gonna kind of table that for a little bit, just ride the coaching wave, and since Pops is only getting older,
hey, spend as much time as you can. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And the best thing is, I got to tell people when you find this, go to the website, find the coaching page, and then scroll down a little bit. You're gonna see Ron, the father, in his Hawaii uniform. This is old school with no belt, elastic waistband, right? The V neck, no button jersey, classic look right there, big time. Big time. That's the coolest. You got to find. I wish, man, maybe we should start doing these as Zoom calls so we can share some of this visual content, because that's a big time look right there.
Yes, sir.
So, I thought that was pretty cool. Your dad runs across a guy probably at some convention like the ABCA or something else like that.
Yep,
maybe it was a smaller one, but it was probably that one. He meets a guy from Ohio, and of course, anybody you're going to meet is going to tell you, we got the best talent. I mean, let me tell you, I live in Virginia, and if I had met your dad, I'd have said, you got to come to Virginia because we got the best talent. But he happened to run across a guy he just, he obviously clicked with, and he says, come on out to Ohio. So he starts recruiting Ohio, and I got to tell you, as you're talking about how Hawaii was just putting together some teams back then when he was playing and coaching, I got to imagine it's probably not that hard to recruit when you're coaching at Hawaii. You're like, hey, buddy, I know you live in Ohio, but would you like to go to school in Hawaii? Absolutely. Where do I sign? Like,
Yeah,
like
100%.
that seems like, you should have probably some of the top players in the country every single year when you're recruiting for Hawaii. That's amazing. But regardless, he ends up sort of fishing in the same pond on a yearly basis, going back to Ohio because he's pulling good players, and now that leads to a lifelong connection to Ohio. Let's fast forward the story about, I don't know, 40 years, 20, 30 years, and talk about the Hawaii Tigers in its current form. Listen, there's only so many people to play in Hawaii. You guys live in Oahu. We talked about this yesterday. I'm so geographically challenged, but I had to pull the map up. You guys live on the island of Oahu, which is where Honolulu is, which is where most of the population of Hawaii resides. But there's just so many baseball teams and so many baseball players. So you guys come up with this grand plan to jump on the plane. And essentially, this is what we used to sort of. There's a phrase. I think this is the right phrase. It's called a barnstorming tour, which is where you guys are basically just hitting the road and you're going to play. You're going to pop in and play. You're going to hit the road and you're going to pop in and play somebody else. You're going to hop in. So it's not like super duper organized. Like, hey, it's not like most teams are doing a tournament every single weekend. That's not what y'all are doing. Can you talk about sort of what, the nuts and bolts of what this trip looks like and sort of how y'all, created the schedule that you're created and who some of these clubs that you're playing are?
Yeah, 100%. I'll kind of elaborate on that. Is that basically we're kind of looking at the travel ball situation back home in Hawaii, and we knew that a big hotbed was Arizona. They're playing in those 100-team tournaments over there.
Yep.
California was another spot. They started going into Texas and Georgia. But we noticed there was a lot of tournament ball. And what we knew is that in tournament ball, you're going to run into your handful of teams that are, not up to par. And you're just kind of wasting your time and money at that point. So our mission became, how do we, our main focus was the development of our players. And we knew that if we put them in front of the best talent and the top talent, that would be best for their development, physically and mentally. So that takes us to the schedule. One of the first things I did was, we called up Mark Hopkins from Midland and talked with Jeremiah, who's the GM over there. And we kind of lined up some games with them. And then he gave me the contact for the Ohio Warhawks.
I was going to say, that's Ron Slusher, who I've tried to get him on the pod, and he and I talked, but our schedules didn't work out. So Ron, if you're listening, man, we got to get you on. I apologize. So let's circle back on that.
Oh yeah, he would have great stories to tell you. Slush is an awesome guy, very interesting as well. But yeah, so we kind of linked up with now the Ohio Warhawks. So we scheduled a bunch of games with them. And then we also got in connection with the Cincinnati Spikes. So this took a lot of research on our end to set the trip up, because I had to now look into, okay, we had Midland, we had the Ohio Warhawks. We know that they're some of the top teams in this region of the country, and if not nationally, they're the top. So now I was like, okay, how are we going to fill in the rest of the schedule? So I started to do my research, and that's how I found the Cincinnati Spikes. So I kind of reached out to them in an email and stuff, and the guy got back to me, Mr. Nick Wright, and he said that they actually had one more spot in their 8-team tournament last summer, and asked us if we wanted to fill it. And I was like, absolutely, we'll check that out. We'll take that spot. So it was awesome because it was a completely free tournament. The concession food is free. The admission is free.
You guys who are hearing this are probably scratching your head. If you don't know who the Cincy Spikes are, you got to get online. That's another club. I tried. We were going to have them on the podcast as well. You keep mentioning all the people who we we didn't get on the podcast, but I've spoken with their I forget if it was their GM or the assistant to the GM at length, and that's an amazing program. And you're there right now. The facilities are second to none. Man, people need to go look that up. I don't think that's a name that everybody recognizes. It's not one of those like nationally recognized logos that people just see and immediately know. But they're doing special things out there, man. So you just rolled in, free tournament, free concession, free admission. That's unbelievable.
Yep. So in that first leg of our trip, we were able to, lock up about 14 games because we ended up going down to Kentucky to play one down there with Kentucky Baseball Club. I got connected over Twitter with Mr. Jason Slack of the Ohio Hit Dogs. Mm-hmm. He's another big key figure in helping us put things together. He's really big on Twitter and getting the word out. And, that was when we first got to witness this future prospect, Drew Graham. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's a left-hand pitcher, 2024, coming out of Ohio. And, Mr. Slack put together a team to play us last summer. It kind of featured the young up-and-coming Ohio Stars, and he pitched Drew Graham against us, and that's how we got to first see him and meet him. And yeah, so our schedule came together, and hey, it was pretty competitive. It was looking competitive on paper, but it was like, is it really going to be competitive? Like, how truly good are these guys, Because my dad has seen the talent up here, but my brother and I, we haven't seen it with our own eyes yet. Mm-hmm. So we get up to Ohio, and our first game is with the Ohio Warhawks, and I'll never forget it, Mr. Prado. We show up to the field. We showed up to the field before them. Our guys are all amped because they're playing at Wright State University, an all-turf field, something we don't have in Hawaii. And, they're just playing catch. And then we see these guys roll into the dugout. Oh, I tell you, it felt like they were like Vanderbilt showing up to the field. They're huge. They're physical-looking dudes. And let me tell you, when they stepped onto that field, they were athletic as well. We got to see 90-91 right there in that first inning. All their guys were just, they could drop the hammer in, like within any count, 3-2, 3-1. They can throw the hammer, the changeup. They had command over their pitches. So they do a real good job with their guys there at the Ohio Warhawks. Very, very talented. But the best one was when we played them in a night game a few days later, and they brought out this 6'6" guy that was at Marshall University, and he's throwing 93. They had another Nebraska guy, a Nebraska commit, throwing 93 as well. And that was the first time our boys have ever seen something that hot before.
Yeah, that's, again, because you guys are, you're dealing with a small pool of players out in Hawaii. Yes, there's good players, but it's a smaller population. And, yeah, then you roll in and you see the unfair advantages. This is a team that they're legendary. They've been around forever. They're like the grandfathers of travel baseball, and they get literally the pick of the litter. That entire team is stacked, and that's what y'all roll in. That's your warm-up. That's a pretty good warm-up, man. That's good.
Yeah, it was a great experience for our guys, but the best part was when they returned home from that Ohio trip last summer, they returned home with a different type of confidence, because now 83 to 85 miles per hour, that looked like butter now when we went back home.
Yeah. Which is what you were looking for, right?
Absolutely. That was a part of the whole experience, and we were stoked to see our guys start to land, get committed to other schools and get opportunities to play at the next level. I mean, we had one boy, he was ready to hang it up, and we said, no, come on a trip, let's go, let's do it. And he came on a trip, did well up here, went back home and did awesome. He made All-State, first team, led the state in RBIs, and he's going to be playing baseball at the next level,
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It was awesome.
So the thing, I often talk with coaches about either the advantages or disadvantages of the geography that they're from. And it doesn't, like on the surface, you're like, well, it's just travel ball. You just show up to the event, and it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It just matters where you go. But it does matter. Like the guys, just to compare and contrast, you How far is Oahu from LA? It's like 3,000 miles or something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's about 4 hours to fly there.
Yeah, it's like a 4-hour flight just to get to like the next baseball town, basically. Compare and contrast that to the last guest we had on the podcast from Beast Baseball in Baltimore, Maryland. Okay, Baltimore, Maryland is a half a day's drive to half of the population in the country. So in that same 4 hours that you guys could, like that same travel from your house to the airport, of hanging at the airport, flying to LA to go to some baseball field to go play a game, these guys can literally drive and get to half of the country's population in that same amount of time. It is a big deal. It really is a big deal, which is why I think that your approach and kind of thinking outside the box is really the ROI. I think is what I'm getting at here. The return on investment, right? Like there's plenty of good events like every single weekend all over the place, but y'all need to be so strategic with what you're doing that this type of schedule is really interesting to me. It's not too uncommon or too dissimilar, I should say, to what we're seeing a lot of the Canadian clubs do. And the Canadian clubs usually do like a trip similar to this in the fall. And so my buddies with the Ontario Blue Jays and with Team Ontario, they jump on a charter bus and they go play team after team after team. But the difference is, even though you're further away, they're technically international. And so there's that little nuance allows them to play college teams. So imagine your barnstorming tour that you're doing against unbelievable clubs like the Warhawks and the Midland Braves. They get to do it against clubs like UVA. So it's a little different, but same concept, because these colleges are allowed to play international competition against these travel teams. Anyway, I digress. But I love this concept, because if you showed up at just regular run of the mill weekend event. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about like the big events, but like the smaller, kind of more routine events that teams are playing in that might have 30, 35, 40 teams in it. They're good events, don't get me wrong, on like a local and regional level, but the risk is that you show up to one and they put you out on some high school field that's, 45 minutes away from the main complex, and maybe only 2 college coaches show up, or maybe none. You know what I mean? Like, now y'all just flew, like 12 hours to play in front of nobody, where if you can play on a Tuesday night against the Warhawks or the Redskins or the or the Cincy Spikes, now all of a sudden, like, you can hedge your bets a little bit. And hey, it's Tuesday night. Hey, coaches, you can get on the phone, get on the horn, and be like, hey, we got a bunch of arms thrown tonight. The Warhawks have a bunch of arms thrown tonight. Come on out. I just love the concept, the strategy, because y'all are not a regular run-of-the-mill team from Richmond, Virginia, like where I live, where you can just hop on a car and pop into the weekend tournaments. It doesn't work that way. So let's talk about, like, obviously, like I talk about, it has potential for return on investment, but like, have you noticed that? Are you getting coaches who are willing to come out on a Tuesday or Wednesday night to these type of events?
Oh yeah, for sure. Our connections up here and our network up here in Ohio have started to expand. We had like the University of Dayton coming out. They came out to check our guys out the other night when we played the Redskins. The new Ohio State coaching staff, they sent one of their coaches down to check out the game. Cincinnati was another one. I've been trying to get in touch with Cincinnati, from last summer. I know they're very busy and stuff, but this summer I just shot out an email. I was like, hey, we got the Redskins tonight. We're in town, and the guy came out. Coach JD came out, so it's super cool to finally meet him in person. Northern Kentucky also came up. So we're starting to really hit the coaches in the area. You know, my brother was on the phone with Coach Vitello from the University of Tennessee, because that's who recruited him when he was at Arkansas.
Yeah.
There with the SEC. He was almost going to fly in. You know, I know they were down in Alabama watching some games down there and stuff. And when he found out that, you know, I was telling you about Drew Graham, well, this summer, you know, we had a game with the Redskins, and it just happened to work out where Drew Graham was looking for some work. So he asked if he could pitch with us, you know. We're like, absolutely, you know. So we had him pitch with us. We put him in the Tiger uniform and everything. And here we have the top prospect in Ohio pitching for us.
That's funny. Know? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was super cool, you know, but it definitely, you know, Drew Graham's a special player. And, you know, of course, anytime he's on the field, you know, coaches are going to show out and stuff. And, yeah, unfortunately, Tennessee couldn't make it last minute, but just the thought that, you know, Coach V was going to fly in for it, yeah, it was pretty cool, you know. So we're starting to, you know, expand our network out here, which has been a lot of fun. You know, like you were saying earlier, hey, we got players, they wanna, you know, come up here and see the talent up here, and there's a lot of good programs up here, you know. And I know the transfer portal is changing a lot of things with that, you know, and the whole process and stuff. But, you know, we're just talking with University of Dayton, and they're like, yeah, it's getting tough to recruit just locally. You know, we got to expand outward and stuff. And they're talking about, you know, hey, we're just trying to find the best guys. It doesn't matter where they're from, you know.
Yeah.
From all over. It's cool with us, you know. So we got a really good connection going with them, and yeah.
The other thing that's kind of interesting about this, about y'all's sort of approach, is that to just roll into just like a regular game at a regular event, you're not going to form like a great connection with the staff on the other side of the field, right? Mm-hmm. You roll in, you're going to play a 2.5 hour game. You're going to shake hands. You'll be friendly, but like, you know, you're not going to have this bond. But like the bond that you'll create in your type of approach, now all of a sudden you're going to have the guys from Midland, from the Warhawks, from the Spikes. Now they are also part of the network for your guys. They're going to, you know what I mean? And like their network is deep in this part of the world. And so so now all of a sudden they are advocates for your guys as well, which is a nice sort of added bonus. You know what I mean? Because that's what, listen, coaches obviously want to like promote their guys, but you know, like not every single one of their guys is a fit for every single school. So there are times when a coach, you know, comes hunting around and hey, who do you got for me? Well, I don't have anybody for you, but we were just played 3 games with the Tigers, and they got a dude. Let me tell you about this dude, right? Like that. Mm-hmm. The good coaches do that.
Oh yeah, we've developed a strong network with the organizations out here, and it's kind of like a shared network. We call it the Ohio Ohana. You know, Ohana in Hawaii means family, so we call it the Ohio Ohana.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
You know, we've developed this type of brotherhood up here where, you know, we bring guys up, and hey, if they like our guys and they want to keep them for July, that's all part of this whole experience. That's all part of the opportunity. We have a boy, Joshua Arabal. He's just been asked by the Ohio Warhawks and the Midland Redskins to finish up the summer with those teams. You know, Ohio Warhawks want to bring him on for a tournament in Indianapolis, and the Redskins are asking if he can, you know, join them for the Connie Mack World Series down there in Farmington, which is a huge opportunity now for this kid who is just going to go home. And, you know, nothing against American Legion, but, I mean, the type of exposure you're going to get at American Legion versus the Connie Mack World Series, I mean,
it's nothing against American Legion. It's American Legion in Oahu where there's going to be no college coaches versus right. So this is apples to oranges, man. This is that's an awesome, again, sort of like side effect of this thing that y'all are doing, where these kids can basically, hey, it's like they're going to sign 2-week deals. They're going to sign a 3-week deal with somebody, or, you know, week to week.
It's exciting. It's exciting for our guys.
Well, let me ask you. This is sort of like irrelevant, I guess, but like, does mom and dad, do the parents come on this thing and hang around with y'all for the time that you're in Ohio?
Yeah, I would say this time around we had a handful of parents come up. Last summer we had about 70% of the kids' parents came up on the trip.
Wow.
And they enjoy it because we have the rental cars. So we drive the boys everywhere. We handle the laundry. So basically they're just up here, just watching baseball, enjoying themselves, just watching their sons play, and they really enjoy it. It's relaxing, is what they said, But that's a part of this whole unique experience that we're trying to provide for Hawaii boys, because I know it's a little different, with some of the other organizations and stuff. They just everyone has to find their own hotel, and they got to drop their kids off at the field and stuff like that. But we try to run ours more like a college road trip, because one of the goals of this trip, Mr. Prado, is to, have these kids experience this now, so that way when they're entering their freshman year of college, they're not entering as freshmen, but they're entering feeling like they're sophomores. That
is a really good point of this type of travel that you guys are doing, where even if mom and dad are down the hall, listen, you guys are bunking up. I think you were telling me before we hit record, they're bunking up together. You got the hotel situation, so it's like a college road trip. And I didn't have that experience till I got to college. So the more you can, the more you can give them those types of responsibilities, the better. How many guys are you jamming in a room together? What are we getting in there? 6, 7 guys in a room? What do y'all do?
Yeah, so these rooms that the residents in are kind of spacious. Comes with like a half kitchen, and square footage wise, it's pretty spacious, So we're able to comfortably fit 4 kids in this one. We've tried it where we stayed in a double room where it's just like the 2 beds, and it's just the 2 beds and that's it, And down it's pretty tight for these boys. They're kind of a little bit bigger. That's why
these kids are big these days, aren't they? You got to give them a little space.
Yeah, so we gotta, next time we stay at those types of hotels, we gotta kind of look at maybe getting the suite and maybe like putting 5 boys in a suite instead. It does cost a little bit more. It's kind of hard for us because like financially we don't have that kind of backing like some of the other travel teams in our state. So we kind of gotta be more strategic with how we pick the hotels and stuff like that, and it kind of takes a bigger hit. Especially this summer was kind of rough with the whole gas prices raising and all that.
Well, I can't imagine. This is we haven't really touched on this, but it really is it's a sacrifice that these parents have made, and the kids are making, and the coaches are making. But it's also quite an investment, like in real dollars and cents, especially like if you compare your budget from this summer to last summer. The hotels and flights are probably on average, maybe not quite. Are they? Have you compared it? Is it 2 times as high or not quite 2 times as high?
It's pretty much, it's almost double. Like last year, our flights were about $900 per player is what it kind of was coming down to.
Ooh.
And then that's why last year we charged $1,500, and that included the airfare, the hotel stay, ground transportation, laundry, and gas. So that kind of covered all that.
Yeah.
So that's the fee that we collected from our parents.
So y'all basically you made $0.00 off of last year's trip. Okay,
yeah, we kind of lost a little bit money.
I'm gonna say.
This year we're about $40K in the hole.
But, okay, so last year you didn't make anything, and this year you lost a lot of money.
Yeah,
I love your heart, man. I love your heart.
On our end, So when the gas prices really shot those flights up, now because we told the parents that we're going to charge them $1,500 again this time around, But then we didn't think that about the gas prices, and when the gas prices shot the flights up to $1,800, now that we were collecting wasn't even covering that. But we told ourselves, you know what? We told the parents what the price would be. We'll keep our word, and we'll just have to eat it. We'll just have to hustle.
Hey, this
is more less.
This is a call to philanthropists, the people who have a heart and have deep pockets. Get on the phone. Call Reid, hook Reid up. We've had people in the past who have connected with guests and have done good things for them. Man, somebody do a good thing for these boys, and for the coaching staff, because they're doing good things for their community by helping these kids get to school. But man, listen, as an entrepreneur, as your friend, man, I love your heart, but you can't go 40 and 50 grand into debt to do these trips, man, because listen, a lot of people bash on people who make money in this baseball world, but the reality is, if you don't make the money, you can't help the next wave of kids. And like, that's the part that I think, they're and I'm not picking on you. You did an absolute just an incredible thing, man. But like, there's this group of haters on Twitter who will just like crush anybody who wants to charge anybody anything for anything baseball related. And it's just like, dude, like like that nice restaurant that I like to eat at, if they don't charge me money, then they can't make me a nice meal next week because they won't be in business. Right? Like, I want to go there and I want to support them. And the same thing is true in the baseball world. Like, the money is what fuels the next go around for the next wave of kids to be able to get these type of opportunities, man. So, man, what y'all did is incredible. I think there's probably ways to figure it out, whether it's through fundraising, maybe
our price a little bit. That's probably the last time we're not gonna do 1,500 next year. It's gonna be a little bit more for sure.
Yeah, man. I used to run these bus tours. They were 4-day, 3-night. Okay, so the kid would jump on the bus, and we would do it here in Virginia, and in 4 days we would hit like 18 to 20 colleges. Okay, they were awesome. 3 nights in hotels, meals. We would do a couple workouts. Also, I'd put them in jerseys, with hats that they would keep. And for just 4 days, I was charging $1,500. And that was just 4 days with no flights across the ocean. So your price is definitely too low. It's too generous. But then not only that, you got hammered when those prices went up, when the gas prices went up. You got crushed.
But we kind of were using the funds that we did, because we run something back home too called Nomura Academy. It's kind of like our baseball. It's kind of our avenue that we do the lessons and the baseball camp for the kids in the community and stuff like that. So we kind of use that we have to kind of go into that and kind of use that to subsidize the cost for the kids.
Yeah, of course.
That's how we're able to lower our costs. But for us, like, this is more of a hobby for us, less of a business, But we got to start thinking about ways that we can at least break even on this.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely learning. I gotta do some things on the financial end to kind of, that way it's more, I guess, we can get the donations and stuff like that. So I gotta kind of work at it too. But we're learning. It's a learning process for us.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna put you. We're gonna set you up with. We all need a good sugar daddy. So we're gonna find you a good sugar daddy who's got deep pockets. Maybe this is a person who lives, oceanfront in Hawaii, and he wants to help out his the local community. Somebody step up, help these boys out, so the coaches don't go $40K in debt just to go play some baseball games. My gosh.
Yes.
That's amazing. You guys, I'll tell you, I think 99% of the people might have canceled that trip. So, listen, on behalf of those boys and behalf of the parents, if they haven't thanked you profusely, I want to thank you for them, because that really is a big sacrifice you guys made. So that's awesome. Man, so super cool. I'm so impressed. This is reminiscent of what the Team Ontario and OBJ and some of the other Canadian clubs are doing a similar concept. And I just I'm in awe of how they had to handle like the geographic separation from there in Ontario. But man, that pales in comparison to being in Hawaii and literally just traveling like across the world to do this. It's almost, this is maybe less reminiscent of the Canadian clubs and more reminiscent. I believe the club is called the Travelers. I mean, that's an appropriate name. It's a club out of Australia. Okay. And gosh, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. I've communicated with him on Twitter. Super good dude who's running baseball stuff in Australia, and he puts together a team, and he, like you, flies around the world to come up here and play stateside on the mainland. I would say y'all are more sort of in common with him than you are with OBJ and those Canadian clubs, because all those guys have to do is hop on a charter bus and they're ready to go. Those you guys have to put in extra effort, extraordinary effort. Would you consider? Have y'all thought? You've done the Ohio thing a few times, and I actually like that you're picking less obvious spots. Like, I think it would be super obvious to go to Arizona. And I think it would be super obvious to hit, California. But I like that you've picked a less obvious spot like Ohio. But and part of the reason is, listen, there's so much talent in California, and there's so much talent in Arizona, and there's so much talent in Texas. Like, we're talking about like bang for the buck and return on investment. Like, if you roll in with a just regular players, like, is that going to be super beneficial, right? So if you roll into a less obvious spot, like, you pull into Ohio or, more of like a mid-Atlantic region, or maybe like a New England region, or maybe not, like maybe up into the Midwest, somewhere up into Chicago. Like, have y'all thought about the same concept, but in a different spot where you can begin to grow your network? Like, I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, our network is kind of pretty strong in Texas as well, due to my brother going to Alvin Community College.
Yeah, sure.
We have a strong connection down there. Actually, some of our boys are actually going to be headed down to Texas to play some JUCO ball down there, and stuff like that. But the connection is strong in Texas as well. So that's kind of a spot that we're looking at tacking on to next year's trip. Maybe instead of spending 2 weeks here in Cincinnati, maybe we might go down to Texas for a few days, or maybe cut our stay in Cleveland a little shorter, so that way we can make it down to Texas instead. So that's the next phase of going into next year, that we kind of gotta experiment and just kind of figure it out. Is like, what's it gonna feel like in Texas and stuff? Because I know there's some tremendous baseball there, and there's extreme talent and exposure opportunities there as well. So, we kind of been developing that relationship with the coaches down there at the various college programs, and kind of working with them to kind of pinpoint who are the strong travel ball teams down there in the Houston or the Dallas area that we kind of schedule into our schedule.
And part of it's probably going to be, you got to look at the personnel that you guys have, the type of players you guys have, and you go, okay, this is sort of where we think they're going to fit in. So let's go to the place where as many of those types of coaches will be able to see these guys and be kind of strategic with each stop, because you are spending a lot. You know what I mean? You're spending a ton of money, so you want to be able to get the biggest bang for the buck. You know what I mean? It's like, it's great to go play in front of Vanderbilt, but if you don't have Vanderbilt guys, like, okay, it's not really that valuable. That time that was spent that valuable, right? So you want to be. This is all about being really super strategic with your time. Speaking of being strategic with your time, man, I've appreciated you coming on, and I always have those list of sort of standard questions. I think I'm gonna cut it short. We're gonna have you come back on another time so that we can do those standard questions, because those questions always lead to such good conversation. But you and the Tigers situation is so unique. I just got caught up in kind of kind of picking your brain about that. And so we'll have to do a round 2. Man, I appreciate it. Again, HawaiiTigers.org and at Hawaii Tigers, again with an S at the end. That's over on Twitter. Definitely connect up. I mean, just do what I did. I sent a DM on Twitter and was like, "Hey, I want to get to know y'all." And Reid responded right away, and here we are. This is how it works, man. You know, that's you'd be actually surprised at how many coaches on Twitter and travel ball clubs actually don't have maybe they don't realize it, but they don't have their DMs open. And a lot of them do have DMs open, but they don't respond. And I'm like, why would you not like, communication's supposed to be like the number one the number one thing that a travel ball coach should be good at is communication. So man, I just compliment you for getting back to me and willing to come on here and share y'all's story. Do you have any kind of parting words?
No, just wanted to say thank you to you, Mr. Prado, for, reaching out. I'm glad we were able to connect and connect over the phone and talk baseball and talk travel ball and even surfing and things like that. We've really enjoyed it and enjoy the opportunity and look forward to, continuing the connection. Yeah.
You got it, man. Hey, hang on. I'm gonna stop the recording, but don't hang up yet.
Okay.